Ooh.
I just want to win this game. I don't mean it. No, that's not true.
T.S. Eliot once wrote, "This is how the world ends, not with a bang, but with a whimper." And do you know what? He might well have been talking about the 2019 All-Ireland Hurling Championship. Tipperary are the kings after a 14-point mauling of who else but Kilkenny. Welcome for the last time to Corbett and McGrath's big build-up. I'm Conan Doherty and I'm joined by a well-rested Derek McGrath and slightly less rested Lar Corbett. How was Sunday night, Lar?
Sunday was what was all about was top class performance. Sunday night in Dublin, yeah, very good. Back in Thurles, big crowds in Thurles, and again last night, big crowds. So did we know sitting here at the beginning of the championship that this was going to, did we know how this is the way it was going to end up? The answer is no. But by God, Tipperary All-Ireland champions 2019, some ring to that now.
Yeah, Jesus. Did you go around to the team hotel on
I wasn't
Sunday night?
In the team hotel. I was across in the Crow Park Hotel after the game, and then I had to come back to work. The boys in the bar were very, very busy Sunday night, so I had to make sure everything was okay there, and there was huge crowds in Thurles Sunday night. Yeah. So the atmosphere was electric.
It was class. Derek, what did you do to mark the occasion? Do you still celebrate even? It's like Christmas Day, I suppose.
I was involved on Sunday night, but I ended up just in a hotel in Dublin, came back. Treated myself to a snack box, if I'm honest, 10 to 12, and I was finished up, Just went to the Camden Court and just went to bed, and re-watched the game then last night at home in my own house, just to have another watch of it to see, kind of make more sense of it perhaps than you just when you're watching the first time, first and foremost. But look, Tip very deserving winners over the year. I think, lost one game very heavily, as they did in 2010 when Liam, I think, lost to Cork early in the year, and the blip in the road that he talked about in the last 48 hours, if you like, and recovering from that takes a lot, albeit, you can't ignore that if, when they were offered a path towards the final involving Laois and Wexford, I think a lot of genuine hurling people are kind of saying Tip will be back in the final. I felt that myself, and I think, that was the general feeling, but that's not taken away from their achievement. They've been the best team overall this year.
Yeah, we were so close to the trilogy that you were saying. Like, if Limerick had have done the job in the semi-final, he would have had that Tip v Limerick for a third time. Yeah,
and I think Limerick are probably the one team looking back on it, having watched the final with just a sense of regret, the whole decision at the end of the game, and Kilkenny's first 20-minute blitz in them, but look, that's the way it goes.
Yeah. Can I just ask you, how often would you watch games? Would you always re-watch a match? Any game you watch, will you go home and watch the full thing again?
As manager, I would have had a routine where I'd watch them on the Monday when I took a bit of parental leave from school. I used to watch them the Monday morning, and then they'd be ready to go for analysis on the Monday night with the boys in the stats team or whatever. But I just have a kind of a habitual kind of, I suppose, anorak kind of obsession with kind of just watching the games. Even if I might just put them on for a few minutes. Last night I put it on, then I put on a bit of Wolves and Man United for for 10 minutes, and I just said, I'll go back. There was no goal, I'll go back to the next 15 minutes. So that's the kind of, you'd be kind of coming in and out of it like that. But you're just kind of looking to see how much of an effect the red card had. What Kilkenny's kind of, just you'd be listening to the commentary on and saying, Kilkenny have done more. So just kind of watching it from an informative point of view, if it was more than anything.
Yeah, well, lads, we've got nothing to build up to as such. Just look back over the winning and losing of the final. Derek's going to pull out the tactics board for one last time before it takes a well-deserved break. And Lar, you're going to try and read one last mind, but it's going to be Derek's later in the show, so we'll tee that up nicely. Okay. Lads, in the build-up to the game, we talked about Kilkenny and Tipperary having to get their matchups right and how would Tip cope with Colin Fennelly, TJ Reid. Lar, you think that Tip got it spot on?
Yeah, Tip got it spot on. Like, you see Ronan Maher, he didn't get the RT man of the match. He got the Sky Sports man of the match in the semi-final. Potentially one of the best wing backs in Ireland at the minute. And now you have to say to yourself, I'm going to break up my half back line that have been the three Mahers across the half back line, and I'm going to put him in full back, which Ronan Maher is not a full back, and you're going to put him on what we spoke about, Colin Fennelly. A dog in the tackle, like tough man. There was a huge risk, but it worked. And Ronan Maher, my own club man, like we see it in the club over the years. When you give him a job, it doesn't make a difference what it is. He's a very, very cool, calm, collective guy. He'll just smile at you and you say, to be no problem. He'll take on any job. If you give him a job next year and you had a job to do full forward, he'd go up as easy full forward as full back. Nothing seems to faze him. And then after 50 minutes, TJ decides, well, I'm going to go in along here, and he arrives in. Colin goes out near centre forward and TJ comes in. And he held his own again, TJ. Walter Walsh came in for a few minutes as well. It didn't make a difference. They were as quick. You think a guy after 50 minutes, now he's getting tired. It's not. Even when TJ came in, he still busted out with ball after ball. So that was a huge call for Liam, and it worked.
Yeah, a big win for Liam that game wasn't it?
Yeah, I think in every way, you know, who would have said beforehand that Barry Heffernan would be comfortable at left corner back, picking up Adrian Mullen, you know, Shamey Kennedy, TJ being picked up very well, albeit, you know, still strong performance with Brendan Maher doing very well on him. And I had seen Ronan Maher playing in a club match against Ballygunner at full back, and Brian O'Sullivan, a dangerous club there at Ballygunner, and done very well. So, and the interesting thing for me is not only the adaptability. After the Wexford game, I was saying they picked Shamey Kennedy, they picked Barry Heffernan because they're going to have a spare man and they want as many hurlers as they need on the pitch, you know, to go forward, etc. But they actually took that mantra into a game where it was probably perceived to be more conventional, if you like. So what you had is adaptability. And I said it. I was on the phone to Lar yesterday. I was saying in the day that Lar was came off injured against Kilkenny down in Nolan Park a number of years ago. He was flying on Paul Murphy. I remember Noel McGrath going back to wing back in that game. Right half back. He ended up right half back the last 10 minutes of that game. And I remember O'Shea talking about adaptability, versatility, and just leaving them hurl wherever they are, you know. And I think that kind of maxim was very much kind of an evidence for Tipperary. We're going to go, we're okay, we're trusting here. The interesting thing for me is when he would have told Ronan Maher. I would have loved to know from Sheedy's perspective. You know, he had 3 weeks to think about it. Did they meet on the Monday? You hear about Jim Gavin and them watching an All-Ireland quarter-final or semi-final on Saturday and meeting as a backroom team on the Sunday. Then they say, listen, let's be definite about what we're doing. We need to tell Ronan it's 2.5 weeks. We give him that time to think about, you know, you're picking Fennelly, so that you're not compromising his instincts. But the one thing he did, he was able to stop Fennelly, but he was also able to hurl as well. He was able to play as well, which you often don't see from full-backs. He was able to get on ball and set up attacks. I think Brian Hogan had a massive role in that as well. Yeah.
Let's get it out of the way though. Richie Hogan. Was it a red card? There was a shouting match going on in the office there a second ago. Him and Cahill Bard obviously having a bit of a back and forward beforehand. What do you think, Derek?
Well, I think taken as an incident on its own, it was a red card. And here's my take on the narrative up to it. You know, there was an incident earlier where Cahill goes to dispossess, if you like, I'd call it, Richie Hogan, and he nips him across the front of the helmet, nipping it, opening his nose, if you like, in what I'd consider to be a yellow card tackle. That's just a completely honest opinion. But in my opinion, what happens then is it gets up. Richie is aggrieved by the tackle, rightly so, and he's, I won't say his temper's flare, but his mindset is if I get a chance, but his mindset is basically like, you know, I'm not going to leave this fella walk out all over me. You know, which is the mindset of any player anyway in an All-Ireland final. They're not going to leave, you know. So for me, the yellow card almost kind of acted as a catalyst for the red card in terms of the mindset of Richie, you know. And I'm not saying it, you know, so in terms of malicious intent or others. He's basically saying to himself, if I can get a nailed on shoulder. I remember the 2016 Munster final, and we were getting hammered by Tip. And I remember Brendan Maher nailing Kevin Moran come down the line in the rain in Limerick with a bang on the money shoulder over the line, and just the lift that the Tip crowd got out of it. And you know, Kilkenny are physical by their nature. I think it was an ill-timed tackle by Richie, but I think for me it was a definite red.
Yeah. Do you think Cahill Barrett had a role to play in it at all?
My first, I don't think there was a red card. And if you look at the different angles, was the referee himself just say he wasn't too sure. For him to pull out a red card, he had to be 100% sure. He wasn't. He asked for other opinions. And if you look at all the different camera angles, I think it's just the camera angle on the Hogan stand shows to me minimal contact, if contact. And I looked at it a few times. So I tried to take away from the thing like, do we feel sorry for Richie? It ruined the game. They're all irrelevant. It's either a red card or it's not a red card. I definitely agree with Derek is saying. I think that he had his dander up. I think that he was a little bit mad. He was distorted a little bit, And Cottle Barrett had him in that situation, and I think when he decided to get a chance, he was going to go with it. He was unlucky when his arm was coming up. I don't think there was anything was intent, but to me, I don't think it was a red card. I think it was a yellow card.
Did the red card even matter? I know that sounds silly because everyone says it ruined the game, but surely Tipperary were on their own at that stage.
I made this point that I felt Tipperary were starting to come then at that stage. Having Kilkenny had dominated the first 21 minutes, 22 minutes, without taking the goal scoring opportunities they had. John McGrath's brilliant hook on Colin Fendy early on. Richie Hogan had a chance to play in Colin Fendy. Walter Welsh had another half chance. And the thing that they normally would have done to you when they get those chances is they kill you. So there was always that feeling I would have had that they're leaving Tip in it and Tip are going to come. I actually commented to someone, I said Tip are going to get a goal here against the run of play. I just felt it, you know, and so I think Tip were coming. You know, even though it's completely, it'd be completely disingenuous to ignore the effect of the red card at the same time. But I felt that Tip were coming. They were starting to flow. They were starting to find space. And they were the Niall O'Mara goal was very significant. Just one point as well on the red card, Conor, without going back, like I can't understand now, and I haven't got one, like, and I'm looking down at my own hand here. I can't understand how with modern technology there can't be some link up to it. You know, I'm not sure what they even call them. Is it a smartphone or an iPhone in terms of a watch? Like, you know, I know smartwatch. You know, where James Owens, in my opinion, did everything right. He was really, he didn't want to send him off. You could see by his kind of body language he didn't want to send him off. But a quick glance down at the third or fourth viewing within the 10 seconds on a watch, perhaps, just without slowing down the whole play. And I think what we're trying to do is make sure we don't compromise the speed of the game. Yeah. That's the worry we have in hurling, I think, that we'll compromise the speed of the game. But it's a quick look down to reconfirm here. You know, and I think for, you know, to make that particular decision. But yeah, on the question about the red card or otherwise affecting it, it had a massive effect, but I think Tip would have won anyway.
Yeah, and like he would only use it in that instance where he's so conflicted. He's trying to figure out whether or not.
He won't be looking down at his watch every 2 seconds because there was an element of that to Sean Cleare's performance, I felt, in the Wexford Tip game semi-final, on the back of what happened the night before between Limerick and Kilkenny. Geez, I better listen, I better get this right. On the back of the Killian Buckley deflected 65 or that wasn't given, that it was nearly too much information we poured in. But when it's an absolute critical decision, you can just have a quick glance down, or someone can be tuned in to basically say, have a quick look at that. Yeah. It's just a matter of doing that. How long did that take? That probably took 3 seconds.
It took that long anyway. Like, you know, so he talked to his linesman, he went over and he stared at Barron for a while to see if there's any blood, and then he went back and talked to his linesman. And
I think it only determined it didn't determine the result, just the scoreline. I think Tip were going to win anyway. I think the red card dictated just the scoreline of how much Tip were going to win by. That's my own opinion. But what it done then, and to a huge advantage for Tip, is that half time came a few minutes later. Liam Sheedy's in the dressing room. He gets these guys together. He gives them all their individual jobs. Calls Cottle Barrett. He says, "You're mine at the edge of the D. So you're going to be our sweeper for the day. You're going to use our 15th man in this way." That was the thing there, that Wexford didn't get the opportunity to send off it just after half time. Davy said it himself after, he couldn't get his jobs and his tactics out to his individual players. But everything worked right for Tip and Liam. So if you want to get someone sent off just before half time, and then you can get a chance then to reassess, and that's just the way it planned out.
Point,
and Derek, you mentioned Niall O'Mara's goal. Isn't it funny? It seemed like a different game entirely. Like, even though it was so important at the time, but by the time the match was finished, nobody was really talking about it so much. To that end, we're going to pull out the tactics board for one final time, and we're going to look at the Tipperary movement to create that goal.
Yeah, I think, look, for me the Niall O'Mara goal was crucial, and if we break it down into a number of different aspects, it looks very simple, and when it's flown, it looks hugely simple. There was a number of things that contributed. First of all, Pádraig Maher at this stage had switched to right half back on Walter Walsh, so he was picking up Walter Walsh while Seamie Kennedy was on the other wing picking John Donnelly. So Owen Murphy goes long with his puck out, and the boys are lining up conventionally here. You have Bubbles, you have Seamie Callan, and you have Jason Ford lining up as they would conventionally. So the crucial thing, which is often ignored, is, and Lar has done it for years, is the movement of Bubbles as the ball is on its way down to Pádraig Maher and Walter Walsh. So as the ball is on its way down, and the relocation of John McGrath at this stage is centre forward. Okay, so which gives a conundrum to Pádraig Walsh. So if you watch the goal in real time, the ball is played down on top of Pádraig Maher and Walter Walsh, and even before Pádraig catches it, Bubbles is on his way here. Dan McCormick is naturally on his way down for the break, as any wing forward would be. and Paddy Deegan has been sucked in, gone down with him, okay? John McGrath is on his way over to the break, 100 yards from the goal, and Pádraig Walsh gets sucked with him as well. So you have a scenario where Bubbles then is moving into an area and Joey Holden goes with him, which leaves an acre of space, if you like, for Shane McCallan and for Jason Ford here. Jason Ford, knowing that the crossfield, Pádraig wins the ball at left half back, and Jason Ford, knowing that the crossfield ball is going to come to Niall O'Mara here, makes his way out here. So what you have is you have an ocean of space all in behind. And Pádraig has been sucked by the fact that John McGrath is a type of player that can get on possession. He's saying to himself, I can't afford to leave John McGrath free, so I'm gone down the pitch with him. Paddy Deegan has gone with Dan McCormick because the natural break is coming. But Bubbles holds the key to it because he's moving, his movement is all this way and he's not directly involved in the play whatsoever. But you can see him even on the screen putting his hand up and he goes far enough. If Bubbles had gone all the way to here, Joey Holden would have said, here I'll hold the space here and I'll watch what's happening. But he's clever enough just to go into an area where it looks like he could be used, which opens the space ultimately for the lads. So by the time then the ball is worked over to here, there's a very, very clever little flick by Niall O'Mara initially to Jason Ford, and the ball is played in over the top. And Niall O'Mara then obviously, Lar will talk us through how he finishes it in terms of ducking in and inside and outside. But for me, it looked completely fluid and completely simple. But there's loads of things going on that make the goal happen in terms of creation of space, which has the hallmark of O'Shea and Tommy Dunn and Liam himself and Darragh Egan all over it. So, outside of the outstanding catch from Pádraig Maher and the positional change, there's the movement here that contribute to the goal and opening up the space for Niall O'Mara to get into.
And this is exactly what you predicted. Last week you said that Tip were going to try and leave that isolated and have runners coming from deep into the space. What would you have done though in that situation if you were Brian Cody?
Well, I would probably concede the space. I would concede the point to Bubbles.
Just tell them to never.
Yeah, and and you're playing with it, which Kilkenny did against Limerick. Because if you go back to Limerick, if say this is Peter Casey or this is Gearóid Hegarty or Tom Morrissey or Kyle Hayes. You have the Limerick half forward and will do that, and you'll have either one of the two, Peter or Casey, will do that. And Kilkenny in the last game, they said to themselves, I'm staying here. And their half forward line, Kilkenny, were coming from the other side to meet the boys in the middle. So John McGrath was then met by TJ Reid TJ Reid would have met Gearóid Hegarty or would have met Kyle Hayes in the semi-final, whereas after that first 20 minute spell, the Donnelly, TJ Reid and Walter Welch axis weren't meeting the boys in the middle, and John McGrath had the guile, I suppose, to be able to create from 100 yards from his goal, which was very telling.
Yeah, but Niall O'Mara obviously still had a hell of a lot to do when he did get the ball, and he did it very well.
Yeah, he done it very well. And the bit I liked about Niall, just say when he gets the ball here, is that and on the telly he's actually running at Kilkenny, but he decides to go left, right. So he didn't break too early, because if he did break early here the first time round, you're too much work to do. He ended up getting the Kilkenny just a player back closer to his goal, and then he made the break. When he stepped inside, then he's in, and it's a second later it's a shot. But the key there is that Niall is a very, very clever guy, so he knew if he made the decision out here too soon, he's way outside 21. The chance of beating a goalie that far out is very, very. It's not that common. You won't beat an intercounty goalie. You have to try and get in as far as you can. But I liked about that he didn't panic. And sometimes referees, when you're in that situation, they could blow you for over-carrying. They could, because what Niall was doing, he was letting on to go left and right, 2, 3, and refs then say, well, he didn't make a decision here, free out. And you have to be borderline there. But you have to take advantage of a situation. And that's what Niall done. He took advantage of a situation, and then when it opened up for him, he knew when to break. It's nearly like in the Formula 1 race, is that the fella coming second has a chance. The fella coming first, he's to look out all the time. You need one break coming near the finishing line to take him on, and that's what Niall done. He took him on, coming near the end of the line. He said, right, my chance now is to break now, bang, goal. But what that does, you have to be calm, cool, collective. And I always say it is, guys will do that in training, they'll do it in Thurles, they'll do it in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. It's sometimes you have to pick the right guys when you go to Dublin, Croke Park, All-Ireland final day, and this was the goal. They set Tipperary on its way. It set the tone that this is our day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a good good parallel from a coach's point of view. Anyone who's watched from a coach's point of view in terms of the dipping of the shoulder left and right. If you watch Austin Gleeson's goal, his famous goal back in the 2017 semi-final, there's a pass on to Brick Walsh, and he just goes left, he goes right, and he goes left again, and he throws Mark Coleman was on his. It was very similar watching Conor Fogarty retreating. You know, if you're just from a coach's point of view, or watching the dipping of the shoulder, we often say to the boys in school, you know, just dip the shoulder and go in at the last minute, dip it again. And you know, I think it was a good parallel in terms of not the actual, you know, what was involved for the goals in terms of the finishes, but the movement of the shoulders in terms of throwing a fella. I think there was a lot in it, you know.
No one was saying Niall O'Mara should have passed it though. They were all saying Austin Gleeson should have passed it off. But the timing of that dip of the shoulder is a real skill though, isn't it? Like no one went, like, because he had the defender on toast, and every time like he was backtracking, every time he turned, he went the other way.
See, you have to have composure, and don't show your hand. Sometimes as forwards we panic a bit because now we have to make a decision. Now, no, you don't have to make a decision. Don't make any decision. Let the back make a decision. Yeah. So that's what Niall has done, going left and going right. So now the back has to make a decision. He's trying to mimic you, but he's looking behind. Niall left it for as late as possible to make his decision, and that's what gave him the best percentage chance of scoring the goal.
Yeah, and it was a hell of a finish as well. Lads, let's talk about Kilkenny for a second. Did Kilkenny die with their boots on? Like, did they really give it everything in that second half, or are we being too soft on them because they're Kilkenny?
Well, first of all, I think from a match-up point of view, I think they made a number of mistakes. I think, look, they can't be exempt from constructive criticism, you know what I mean? And we're all at the time talking about the Kilkenny spirit and what they have, and they'll never give in, and that's rightly so. And I believe most inter-county players don't give in, and sometimes it can look far worse than it is. But in terms of what we don't know as much obviously as Brian and Mick Dempsey and Derek Ling and McGarry and those lads, James McGarry, but we would have felt maybe that perhaps Conor Brown would have picked up, we'll say, Noel McGrath started the game. We felt that was probably a definite matchup. So Killian Buckley, who had struggled for form, if you like, and fitness since having a serious injury at the start of the year, picked up Noel, and Noel probably duly dominated the game to a certain extent. So in terms of the overall effort, you know, Kilkenny's first 20 minutes blitz with Donnelly and them, and the work ethic was very evident, very kind of honest, like and savage, that Brian would call it. But I think after the red card, and even before the red card, there were signs that Tip were obviously getting on top. And you know, a 14-point beating in an All-Ireland final is a pummeling. Like it's a serious beating in a final, regardless of whether you have 14 men or you have 15 men. So for me, it was the contributory factors were a couple of the matchups that didn't materialise great for the lack of a plan B. If you're being completely honest, in terms of the irony of it is they used the ball brilliantly when they had 15 men in the first 20 minutes, and when they had to use the ball better with 14 men. Well, obviously, if you're in a dressing room at half time and you're 14 men, you're going to say, lads, we're going to have to use the ball. Let's not make a hero out of Carl Barrett or whoever. I thought it might be Porrigmar, and I tell you what we know, I thought Barrett might be used in a marking role, and they might free up Porrigmar, they might free up Barry Heffernan, and let's not make a hero out of him. And I felt, to a certain extent, things that you don't associate with Kilkenny, that you saw at the end of the Wexford Leinster final, like booming the ball down to several times to a situation where Ronan Marr just had to tip it down against Colin Fennelly and Carl Barrett was on it, was very, very one-dimensional. To go back to your original question about dying with their boots on, I was just watching it back last night. The normal work ethic and savagery that you associate with Kilkenny with only 5 forwards, for me, wasn't as plain to see as I would normally see it.
Yeah.
No, that's being completely honest.
And I suppose in the opposite dugout, I thought there was a moment that summed up Liam Sheedy like perfectly. 72 minutes on the clock, they've just scored, they've gone 12 up, you know, there's about like a minute left, they've obviously won the game, and he's roaring and screaming at the players, get in the position, pick up from the next puck out. They went on and scored another 2 points, and Lar, it reminded me of what you told us in the first episode, of those runs, you know, like he was always there for the runs, you know, in the lashing rain down in Tipperary, and just that sort of intensity and the fact that he's always demanding more.
He's always demanding more, but you have to remember, like, where did Liam come from? His first All-Ireland final, 2009. We're up by 5 or 6 pints against Kilkenny. We thought we had it. We spoke about that as players after. We thought that day that we had it, and we spoke as a group even, and everyone kind of said, yeah, it crossed our mind. We thought we had it, and then it was taken from us in a blink of an eye. So I think like, even though it was 12 pints, somewhere in the back of your mind, you're saying, right, so this is Kilkenny. They've done it so many times before. There's so many different teams. You don't believe your 12 points. The scoreboard is not registered. You're looking for the next ball, and I think that's Liam. He's always looking for the next ball. And back down to your question is that down in Ennis this year, match is over, game 1, Lashings Rain. He's driving on 15 guys that are doing the runs after, so he's always looking for that extra little bit of an edge. And I just think there that back down to Brian Cody, back down Kilkenny, you can just never ever take your foot off the gas until you're nearly sitting inside in the dressing room. Even when the referee blows the whistle, you have to think for a second, but you're in the dressing room and you win and you say, right, so we've done it here.
Yeah. Derek, I wanted to ask you about family, because Liam Sheedy was talking afterwards about the role of his daughters and helping him getting back into management, and how important it is to have that family around you, and I suppose to allow you to be a manager, because I'm sure it takes up so much time. You would know better than anyone, just how crucial is it to have that network behind you?
Yeah, and I don't think there's anyone that's not moved by images of whether it's a player or whether it's a manager. When they, whether it was Martin McHugh, his son, when Donegal won the All-Ireland a couple of years ago, or whether it was Liam, embracing his family there at the weekend, or Shane McCann with his mum there in the crowd. You look at those pictures and you're moved. You know what I mean? When you look at those pictures, and you can't help being selfish, kind of saying, Jesus, you put yourself in the world of Waterford, or your own county, I think, and you naturally say, Jesus, you're in that feeling. So yeah, it naturally comes back to family all the time. I think in any club environment, any county environment, you talk about family. You talk about in any family, you can have divisions, you can have splits, you can have arguments, which is natural, but it's the complete and utter support of your family in terms of what you put into it. Even when you're at home, I think, which people, I think, maybe they mightn't be able to kind of, empathise with as much, because they mightn't have been in the experience. When you're at home and you come into the house on the back of a bad loss or a good victory, you know that things are almost the same at home, and you're not just trying to put yourself in a position where you're playing daddy daycare, if you like. And I mean that with the greatest respect, to my children. I often come home after a bad loss and they're doing their best to lift their spirits, but it's there in the background. So you're better off just talking it out, say, geez, we didn't go well, what we do? But the support is complete, and it's the same in victory. So you need their, without repeating myself, you need their buy-in from the point of view of, I remember reading at a Lar or Brendan Cummins' book where Liam used to turn up at some of the gym sessions in some of the regional places in Dublin. So it's not, people think you go in or you rock in on a Tuesday and a Friday in the Semple Stadium or Sunday morning and everything is done for you. Like I read yesterday about the Saturday morning sessions for the 15 or 16 guys that were on the extended panel in Tipperary. And that's the same in every county. That the subs are ensuring that they get a match situation on the Saturday morning that will nearly be as taxing as what they go through on the Sunday. And, getting buy-in from everybody in family in terms of, where are you going this morning? That was never a question in my house. I'm married to a sister of John Milan, so they're hurling people, and it probably helps, in terms of they know what's involved, having gone through the experiences watching John as a player and following him all over the country, if you like. So that was always the case. So, and, I think they realise as well that sometimes when you haven't got it, you're not as sane as you should be either, Yeah. So that sounds a kind of a weird kind of comparison, that you missed the pressure of it. So, that could have been a factor for Sheedy as well. That, he looks like a fella's born for the pressure. Like, he's buzzing in the pre-match kind of interviews. He's kind of, we're up for this today. And I think he's taken the learning experience, as I said the last time, from the 7 or 8 years through the Irish Institute of Sport, or, the whole Tenio link and all those things. I think he's brought it to a new level this year. But, yeah, without family, you're absolutely nothing. And it's genuine. It's genuine. I think Liam has that perfect mix between being a great leader but bringing that genuineness of kind of family into it, and we get more of an insight into it, I think, from Tipperary this year than we did any other year in terms of what it means. I think that was interesting for you just watching from afar. It was, you get more of an insight into the significance of it,
Yeah, and what about being present and stuff when you're, I know you were saying about coming back from a bad loss and talking it out, but would you get nervous before a game? Would you come home and just be pissed off? Is it hard sometimes to maybe switch off?
It is, and I'm not making excuses, particularly in a county that's craving a success. 59 since we won All Ireland, couple of appearances since 63, 08, and 17, the only finals we've been in since. So it's different. With respect to Tip and Kilkenny and Cork and Galway, even. It's a bit different. So that's why it probably occupies a bit more of your mind than other counties, and the switch off period is difficult, but you do get better at it. You know, you do get better at it. If you're kind of doing it with a good bit of honesty and you're doing it what you feel to the absolute nth degree, I suppose, in terms of detail, you live in the bubble of kind of nearly self-acceptance that it's going okay despite how the results are going. You know, I know that sounds a bit odd, but it's but it's switching away from it. Jesus, yeah, I found it virtually impossible over the 4 or 5 years. You know.
Yeah. A word for Noel McGrath, like coming back from a life-threatening illness. Yeah. Man of the match in an All-Ireland final. Yeah. How inspirational is this man, Lar?
Like, isn't it fantastic that that sickness and that illness is not going to define who he is? Because a lot of times in life, people are remembered for that and solely for that. But Noel McGrath is going to be remembered for man of the match, All-Ireland final, probably in Ireland as regards hands and mind, and as we also say, a quarterback to set up play, probably the best that's around. Able to think a little bit quicker, a little bit faster than anyone else. But you have to remember then he's great support. Like you meet any of the McGraths in Lockmore only out the road from Thurles, they're all nice, real, genuine, down-to-earth people. And you see it in his brothers as well. So like he had good support around him, a good family structure around him. Then you're coming in then to the likes of Tip and you have good structure as well and help when he needed help. And I think it's fantastic that that's not what's going to define him. We're all seeing on the television over the course of the last 12 months of what the real Noel McGrath is.
Here. I want to get your teams of the year. So forget about the Sunday game, Derek. We're here now at the big time with Corbett McGrath's big build-up, brought to you by Centra, and we want Lar Corbett and Derek McGrath's team of the year. So without further ado, we'll bring back, this time for the very last time, and I really mean that, our good friend, the Tactics Board. Derek, take it away. Who do we have in goal?
Yeah, well, we've gone with Laura's Richie Hogan in the goal. I think he's had a very consistent season. Almost been kind of ignored in terms of how good he's been. You know, very tall, imposing presence on the goal, and I think very clever with the use of the puck outs, particularly on Sunday. You know, had 27 puck outs, 74% retention rate, and I think we spent the whole last year, or even the year running up to this All-Ireland or this All-Ireland Championship, talking about Nicky Quaid and his retention rate, in terms of the All-Ireland final. So I think he was used his full back line very cleverly. Went with 14 short, and there was great variation in his puck outs all throughout the year. You know, and I think he's just nearly been forgotten about in the whole equation in terms of selection, if you like. I think he's been very consistent all year. Full back line, I suppose we went for Sean Finn at right corner back, we went for Ronan Marr at full back, and we went for Cathal Barrett at left corner back.
And we're going to pick one player from the full back line. We're going to pick Cathal Barrett, and what a year this man is after having. So where he came from last year, Liam Sheedy comes in, picks Cathal Barrett, cornerback, knows that he's one of probably the best cornerbacks in Ireland, very fit this year, looks to be very tuned in, and at half time Liam Sheedy gives him a job to be the sweeper, which I suppose myself and Derek said already before, he might have given it to Pádraig Maher, he might have given it to Ronan, but he said to Cathal Barrett, so you're the key man here, you're going to pick up the ball, and what he does is actually gets it and he drives out forward. Now Cathal had a bit of an unusual kind of a year because he got injured coming up before the Munster final, so he missed that game with a hamstring injury and it was touch and go, and he slots back in very quick to a team and to a system. It doesn't mind if he's missing games. And if you were to ask me what the nicest thing, I know he hurt his hamstring, or there was a small bit of a hamstring problem going off the last 10 minutes on Sunday, but he actually got a standing ovation by the Tipperary people leaving the field of play. Cathal Barrett is loved in Tipperary, the Tipperary people love him, and that was a fantastic gesture to Cathal going off on Sunday.
What's the rest of the defence there, Derek?
Yeah, well, we've gone with Brendan Maher at right half back, Pádraig Walsh at centre back, and we've gone with Pádraig Maher at left half back. That's the initial formation, if you like, in terms of just, one of the most heralded players in terms of the year has been Brendan Maher. And I suppose it's very hard to get the balance right when you're a manager between a guy who will go to war for you, who'll take down an opposition's best player and who's still able to hurl at the same time. I was just thinking back in the run up to the show, the very first game against Cork in the Championship, I think he was picking up Daniel Carney, and I think he nipped a great point off his left in the second half. A fella that's able to drive forward and still able to pick up big players. And I said it already, if you go through the players he's picked up all year, you know, Daniel Carney, Tony Kelly, Austin Gleeson, Rory O'Connor, the adaptability to go back corner back and pick up Aaron Gillan and TJ Reid. You know, it's a fairly significant list in terms of the who's who. If I was to say to you, pick out the 6 best forwards in the country outside of Tipperary, you might say just have Gillan, Austin Gleeson, you know, Tony Kelly, certainly be 3 of them, you know, and you Rory O'Connor, and to be able to do that and still drive forward. And even when you go back to that crucial switch when Pádraig Maher went to the right half back and switched with Shamey Kennedy, the next ball came down, Brendan Maher won a crucial free off that. He drove forward the ball in the hurl, kind of almost cutely played it in front of him and took the tackle on board, and it was a crucial free for Jason Ford to put over, you know. So I thought he has a fantastic year overall. And sometimes when you do marking jobs, you can be ignored in the public perception. Can be like, he was just there, he did a good job, he didn't hit much ball, you know. But I think if you're on the team with him, it's a different outlook.
What else do we have here?
Yeah, well, I think not surprisingly, or maybe surprisingly, we've gone with a 7th defender here, or a man in the hole, just to keep the viewers kind of consistent, you know, in terms of it. Yeah, it does. Yeah, well, listen, we're actually going to surprisingly. People might say, well, why haven't you gone with Kevin Foley here, or why haven't you gone with John Lennon, or why haven't you gone even with Declan Hannon or Tadhg de Burke? We say the people that are normally nominated sweepers, if you like, but we've actually gone with Liam Ryan from Wexford here, you know, with a team that has a look of driving forward. So we're saying tactically that we're going to give Brendan Maher and Pádraig Walsh and Pádraig Maher the licence to absolutely bomb forward from 5, 6 and 7, because no better men that be able to mark and go at their deep half forwards and still get forward. And Liam Ryan is actually very effective at going forward, ball in hand and ball on the hurley as well. So he got a brilliant point against Tipperary. Remember, he came out wing back against ourselves in the 17 quarter final, and you know, he's very difficult to dispossess when he's charging forward. Who am I to tell Davy that he should be, because he played such a good year at full back as well himself, but he does love to put the ball on the hurl and charge forward, and he's very good at it. And we're kind of going to be attacking from deep. And the interesting thing on that, Conor, was I was looking at Eamon O'Shea at the weekend, and he's with the backs for the game, which is kind of, you know, he's renowned for being a forwards man, but it's almost as if he's kind of keeping the backs, kind of the space is made up above by ensuring that the backs are almost condensed and they're coming down into the space. You know, it was interesting, I thought, you know. Yeah.
And do we have any midfielders, or is there extra defenders in here?
No, we have 2 conventional midfielders in Noel McGrath and Diarmuid O'Keefe from Wexford.
And you pulled it a halfback?
Oh, sorry, apologies. We might as well, have an offensive coach, you know, yeah.
Diarmuid O'Keefe, like, why this midfield?
This midfield, and I suppose if you look at them, they're just pure hurlers, and the way midfield has gone now, they nearly have to be your quarterback to set up play, because a lot of teams are playing with either a 1 or a 2 man full forward line. So what these guys are able to do, are able to look up quick to see who's inside and make decisions very, very quick. So that's the reason why we went with that.
Half forward line, talk to me, Derek.
Yeah, half forward, we've gone with Wexford's Lee Chin at 10. We've gone with Patrick Horgan at 11. And we've gone with Kilkenny's TJ Reid at 12.
Jeez, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, and look, I think, again, we're obviously going to have a 2-man full forward, but I think the reason for locating Reid, Horgan and Chin is, you know, Reid and Chin are very good ball winners and they can score from outside, and Patrick Horgan in an 11 role would nearly score as much as he would in a 2 versus 3 possible scenario in the full forward line. So you have your shooters outside. You have you have a combination of Reid and Chin giving you the kind of workhorse element that Limerick give you, and you know, you also have the likelihood if a team will marking them, that the man markers involved in another team that are playing against them will follow them all over the place, which in turn will open up space. Like if you're preparing to play Tipperary, or if you're preparing to play Kilkenny or Cork, you're saying we need someone for Horgan, we need someone for TJ Reid. If you're playing Wexford, you're saying we need someone for Chin. So giving them the licence to go wherever they want around the pitch should open it up for the 2 boys inside.
And who are those 2 boys inside?
The 2 boys inside are Shamey Callanan and Aaron Gillan.
So with these guys, when you're playing in the full forward line now, you have to be prepared that it could be 4 backs and you might be inside on your own. It could be 3, you could be inside on your own. You have to be prepared to wait for a chance. So if you look at Shamey Callanan, nothing from playing the first half, living on a few bits and pieces of scraps. The rain was coming down, being frustrated. It looked like maybe the ball was going out a little bit too easy. He didn't get his head around. Then you see a small chance just after half-time. He skids in, ball in the back of the net. But that chance could have came in the last 10 minutes of the game, in the last 10 minutes of the second half. In being in the full forward now, you have to be prepared for that. So now, what is that? That's mental strength. So you can't be looking out to the sideline. Is the manager going to take you off because you haven't scored? There's belief in yourself, but there's also a connection between you and the management that they believe the chance will come. So take hurling, strip it all back. Forget about the training, forget about your hands, forget about everything you're after doing. Mental strength in Croke Park. I have to wait my chance. Not many guys are able mentally to wait for their chance. So what happens? An awful lot of forwards are inside when they're in here. They decide to go out for a run around. What are they doing? You're letting down your teammates. You're letting down if the ball comes in, it's going out too easy. You have to be mentally strong, and these are the guys that we saw it this year are mentally strong to wait for a chance to come in.
That's a very impressive lineup you've put together. Anybody that you feel like screwed over, like maybe hard done by not getting into the team?
I think we spoke in the run up to the semi-finals and final about the importance of Colin Friendly to Kilkenny, and we've omitted him. The other big talking point is Tip win the All-Ireland convincingly, and we've won it the much heralded forward line in the forward line in Shane McCallan. So you've no Bubbles, you've no John McGrath, you've no Niall O'Mara, and you've no Jason Ford, if you like. So I think what fed into that, I suppose, is the fact that they've had blips during the season, kind of mid-season blips, like Bubbles and John McGrath lit it up at the very start of the championship. Then they had a small bit of a dip, and then they came again in the final, if you like, as a collective. And I think it was very much the collective movement of the Tipperary forward line that contributed to their. And also, I suppose, we talked about Hayes, Hegarty, and Morrissey, their importance to Limerick. They're beaten in the semi-final with a controversial decision, and we're saying, geez, there's none of them, none of those three mentioned. I thought Alan Callaghan had a brilliant year for Cork, coming back from such a serious injury. Came on against Cork, come on against Limerick, did very well, scored 1, 5 or 6 against Waterford in the next game. I think he got 4 or 5 points on average in every game after that. Was torturing Kilkenny for long periods of the quarter-final, so he'd be another fella. And the Laois boys, obviously, Mark Kavanagh, brilliant at centre forward for Laois, Aaron Dunphy, Jack Kelly at wing back, and Paddy Purcell in the middle of the field was very good all year.
And the Roland, what about him as well?
Very unlucky. And even when you think about the puck out distribution, he's another fella that would suit, a similar setup than Eddie Brennan's team had this year in terms of being able to attack from everywhere and being able to pinpoint. It's gone to a Cluxton level nearly now in terms of the focus on the difference between the puck out situation. And even I look back at my own time, and I wouldn't have been brilliant at it, and it's something that you learn even in the year away from it. I would have given Sock or Stephen O'Keefe not complete freedom, and we'd have a few kind of things that we'd work on, but I think now more than ever that I would have worked more on him being out at the 21 and being involved in general play than actual puck out strategies, which is something you learn from being out of it. But Enda Rowland definitely not worthy, not that he's not worthy of a mention. He's actually worthy of more consideration than perhaps we've given him. Yeah,
good stuff. Last but not least, we're going to play a little game called Mr. and Mr. I suppose it's usually Mr. and Mrs. But you've gotten to know each other pretty well over the last few months. I want to see just how well you've gotten to know each other. We've got 5 different categories. I'm going to get the two of you to guess what the other put down, so we'll get that up right now. Okay, men, match of the year. Derek, what do you think Lar has put down for match of the year?
Match of the year. I think he's gone for Wexford and Tip All-Ireland semi-final.
Lar, can you reveal, please, what you put down? Tip v Wexford All-Ireland semi-final. Very good, Derek. Lar, why have you gone for that one?
I've gone. That was the match that defined Tipperary's year, and I think they got together after that, and they knew that they were in a right good chance of winning the final.
So, what do you think Derek has gone with?
I think Derek put down Tip and Wexford semi-final as well.
Derek, what have you gone with?
Avoid a Lar.
Oh, for God's sake.
Sorry for the predictability.
We're moving on. I feel like you're doing collusion here now. All right. Management team of the year. So, Derek, who do you think Lar has gone with?
I think he's gone with Sheedy's management team of Darragh Egan, O'Shea and Tommy Dunn.
Lar, what have you gone with? Tipperary. And why have you done that? I suppose it's pretty obvious.
I've done that. Just something like Liam came to the table very, very late. And I would think this week, next week, if you're an inter-county manager, you're going ringing your selectors this week, next week, you're after spotting a guy maybe a few months ago and you're saying, right, so here's a physical trainer, I'm going to give him a text. So an awful lot of people might have been gone off the table that were at Liam's disposal. So when he came to the table late, I'm not too sure, did he ring anyone else? I don't know. But I'm just thinking that if there was guys and good guys out there, maybe they were already gone. So Liam really had to start from the basics, build his backroom team together, which he did, an unbelievable team, but had to build it quick and fast because the matches and we'll just say lads have to go back train, you have to try and get into physical shape. So really, I think that he ticked all the right boxes, done it right in a short time frame. I only had a small window to do it. That's really why I picked Tip.
Yeah, and who do you think Derek McGrath has gone with?
I picked Tip as well.
Derek?
Tipperary, yeah, Sheedy and the 25 others in the background team. Listen, and I don't mean that in a disingenuous fashion. Like, I think the way Sheedy has just been able to, and I don't think they take much managing, Eamon O'Shea and Tommy Dunn and Darragh Egan, because they're all in it for the right reasons. But I think the way he's just, I think the template there is going to be very hard to compete with for other teams, you know. Just last year we were revering Kiley, Kinnerk, Joe O'Connor, Alan Cunningham, the JP significance of it. You know, just from afar you're kind of looking at it and you're saying, Jesus, they seem to be a perfect model there. And then, you know, his friendship with Declan Kelly, and we spoke about it the last day, the Tenio link, that hugely successful company that's obviously laced with authenticity and honesty, but hard work, but also a vision for the future. And the role of the board, I think, in not stepping back, but acknowledging and allowing Tenio or Teneo, or whatever the exact pronunciation is, to kind of be a strategic partner for all elements of Tip GA and at senior level. And, you know, I think that's hugely impressive. It's hugely impressive. And Liam's ability to be able to take his experience with the Institute of Sport and to be able to say, hang on, I can still bring what it means to play with Tipperary to the whole thing. I can still give the honesty of approach, but I have all these good people with me as well. And to be able to delegate responsibility there. You know, I thought I was telling at the very end of the game where Tenny was jumping around, he was kind of saying, where's Cody? I could see him, you were kind of lip reading, where's Cody? He was straight to Eamon O'Shea, he had Darragh Egan with him, he had Tommy Dunn with him. And it was like the four of them were after being just through the mill over the year in terms of what they'd done. And I got in a taxi on Monday morning. My wife had left something in a shop in Grafton Street on Monday. I was sent back down to get it. You know, she left the bag behind her. So, Jesus, I knew where I was going. But I got in a taxi outside of Burlington, and Darragh Egan was coming out, and he got in the back of the taxi with me. They were heading to the Palace Bar, I'd say, you know, at 12 o'clock on Monday there, and I just couldn't get over how nice the chap was. You know, I only met him for the second time. And someone had told me since then that Liam went into the primary school where he's principal, and he just couldn't get over the amount of respect he had in the school, like as a 33-year-old, you know. And here's a guy who played in the goal, played outfield, no more than myself, didn't quite have 10 years like Lar or 15 years like Lar, but willing to invest in coaching, you know, and just, you know, I think the background team is hugely impressive. Just the manner and the way they went about it, and the humility the way they went about it, I thought was, Jesus, it's going to be very hard to follow, you know.
Well, that is 2 scores each. Tip v Wexford for Match of the Year, Tipperary for Management of the Year from both of you. Third category, Team of the Year. Derek, who do you think that Lar has gone with? You keep that down in a second. Who do you think Lar has gone with?
I think he's gone with Tip for all the right reasons.
Lar.
Ooh. I just want to win this game. I don't mean it. No, that's not true. The reason why I went, I like the underdog, and I like the underdog that no one gives a chance to. And I was really very interested in Eddie Brennan's story this year, that he rang around the Laois players. Some of them wouldn't come on board, were more interested in playing with the club. They got their day in Croke Park. Eddie having a few pints with the lads after the match, real kind of relaxed, back up, played just Dublin, bet Dublin. I just like that, and what I'm very interested in, when Eddie goes ringing these guys this year, and he puts his panel together, I think these guys will answer the phone, and I think these lads will come in and train from this year because they might have a vision of getting back to Croke Park again. So I just like that style, and I like the setup that he had there.
Yeah.
It's caught my imagination.
I think Derek might have given it away with all the right reasons coming, but who do you think Derek has gone with?
He put down Tipperary, but I thought that he might have given it to Wexford, which was but he put down Tipperary. Yeah, Tipperary. Put down Tipperary.
Yeah, as has been previously hinted at, I've gone with Tipperary. Yeah, I probably said it all in outlining what the management team have brought to it, but I think noticeable, difference in terms of the players as well. The early league game between Clare and Tipperary, first league game in actual fact, Callan as captain, Noel McGrath's vice captain. Just Callan's work ethic all the year, the way they've carried themselves before, during and after games in terms of how they've talked about the importance of the Tipperary jersey, and just a kind of complete buy-in, the reintegration into the panel of Cathal Barrett, the significance of overcoming Bonner's loss, the involvement of all players, the inclusive attitude. And I just thought Laois are completely worthy of not alone mention, but huge significance, and Wexford as well. I think they've had a fantastic year. They look back on it with a tinge of disappointment in terms of the semi-final and how they played so well and not to get over the line, and winning a Leinster trophy is not to be scoffed at. So yeah, but for me the team of the year definitely Tipperary.
Okay, it's 3-2 to the mind reader, that is Lar Corbett. I wanted a fourth category. There's only 5, remember, so Derek, you need to start getting back into it. A bit of attack now, Derek. Unleash this 7th defender, let him go and win the game for you. We're going for a young hurler of the year, so who do you think that Lar's gone with?
I think he's gone with Adrian Mullen. Kilkenny's Adrian Mullen.
Very, very good shout. Lar, why is that?
I went with Adrian, and good for Kilkenny, but like when I looked at Adrian Mullen this year, he reminded me of a guy that was playing on the Kilkenny team for the last 10 years. And coming as a player, sometimes it's annoying, and I look back and say how long it took me to settle in. This guy was getting onto ball, and I said, this is not his first year in charge. Came from the club. I know he got hurler of the year within the club, but so relaxed. Doesn't look 19, 20 on the field, has great composure. And I was just trying to think of how and why can you come into a Kilkenny set-up and not be phased and be able to come in and dictate games. But I just thought for it, in his club, if you're going to tug out, you tug out beside Colin Fennelly, TJ Reid, Henry Shefflin would have tugged out, now he's his manager. So when you're actually coming into Kilkenny dressing room, you're actually tugging out there beside the same guys that you tugged out with your club with. So I think that's a huge advantage for a new guy coming in. He's coming in with that experience, and he's coming in, we'll just say, with good advice over the years, but then to be able to settle into the team. And he did settle into the team, that's why I young hurler of the year.
Yeah, good shout, Derek. Who do you think Derek's going with, Lar?
I think Derek put down Adrian Mullen as well.
Derek.
Lar, you're killing me now. You're killing me, man. Adrian Mullen, yeah. And look, just a point on, when Ballyhale finished the club championship, I actually went down to watch Kilkenny and Cork. It was a charity match in Páirc Uí Rinn involving Kilkenny and Cork, and it was his first night playing with Kilkenny against Cork down at Páirc Uí Rinn, and he struggled big time. And you come away from the game, Kilkenny were putting out a fairly strong team, and Cork were in the middle of the club championship, and they were kind of got together, and I remember watching him saying, geez, he's struggling here. And then to see how he blossomed throughout the championship then as well, and again, like Lar said, huge time and only a young lad, so huge time on the ball and only a young lad. And again, you'd have to marry it with Rory O'Connor or maybe Niall O'Leary from Cork. The competition in terms of other candidates is probably, there's no other standout candidates in my opinion about Rory O'Connor and Adrian Mullen.
Well, it's 4-3 to Lar. Derek, you can only draw it now at this stage. Draws are probably bringing back bad memories for you. But who do you think that Lar has gone with for his hurler of the year?
Yeah, I'm caught now here. Based on the relationship they had on the field of play and this year as well, I think he's gone with Noel McGrath.
Lar. Oh, Derek. It's going to be Shamey Callanan and he's delighted about it. why Shamey over Noel?
I went with Shamey. Goal, just like a goal a game, breaking all the records, and then Liam Sheedy coming in saying, Shamey Callanan, you're my captain. Backing him to be captain, giving him the frees. Then during the year, we're taking the frees off you. Small thing, and then for his mindset to be able to say, right, so to get over these small things and still be able to put into performances, then hang around the edge of the square, doesn't mind living on scraps. His work rate over the last couple of years has been a different level. I'm after picking him for hurler there on a lot of other things, bar the goals, other things that are around it. So mindset of the frees being taken off, living on scraps inside, had to improve on it, just his work rate, which he has done, which is phenomenal. So there are the reasons as a whole why I think Shamey Callanan is hurler there, and deservedly so.
Well, Lar, you've already won this Mr. and Mr. competition, but just to rub it in, who do you think Derek is going with for hurler of the year?
Now he's after throwing me a small bit, so I'm picking between Shamey Callanan and Noel McGrath. And now I have to try and look at his mind for a second now.
I ain't got no poker face here, man.
Right. So I have to try and pick between the both of them. And he had a bit of a smile when I mentioned Noel McGrath, so I'm going to say that he put down Shamey Callanan.
Therein lies the trick in the smile. I go for Noel McGrath. Noel McGrath, the edge, Shamey Callanan. Listen.
But now, can I just say that the name, you asked me to pick a name, the name is on the sheet.
And you did both as well, in fairness.
They're the rules.
Yeah. Look, I was trying to go through it in my own head, like as regards, I don't think there's anything between them, and that's not just being sitting on the fence. But I think Noel McGrath's only real blip was the Munster final. I think he was taken off in the Munster final. If I go through the games, he was outstanding against Cork. He was outstanding against Waterford, outstanding against Clare. Had a bit of a blip against Limerick in the Munster final. And I just thought he was the amount of possessions and the amount of times he's responsible for the good ball that goes in, the link play, and found his home. I said earlier on off camera that in 06 we played the Dean Ryan Cup final, which is a junior cup final, or 16.5 cup final, De La Salle College against Templemore, and he just dominated us from the middle of the field and always seemed to have time. And I just thought his overall play, and Shamey, Lara's right, Shamey, from the tackling to the dealing with the frees. So look, there's nothing between them, but there would have been periods I would have said that Shamey's patience, he had killer moments in games, and Lara has rightly alluded to the kind of the patience needed for that. But in terms of the overall effect and possessions, obviously you're going to get more possessions in midfield than anywhere else in the field, but the way he used it, I'd love to get a possession map on him for the year in terms of how many, and then possession count, how many possessions he had and how he used it so efficiently. So for me, it's Noel, and I hope we're not left in a scenario where you find the three guys being nominated and Noel and Shamey being split in the votes, and I hope that doesn't materialise, which is often something to kind of watch,
Well, lads, it pains me to say that is a wrap of Corbett and McGrath's big build-up. Honestly, I want to say genuinely thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure for me to sit here and chat these. The experience that you've brought, the analysis, the stories that you've told, it's been unreal. So honestly, thank you very much. Perfect. It's been great.
Thanks very much.
And Derek, I hope you don't stay out of management too long as well, because I'd say you're wasted with the brain that you have and the passion that you have for it. And that's my dream for you coming forward. But and thanks to everybody who's been watching. Thanks to Centra, our sponsors. And if you want to tell the boys just how great they've been, get involved in the conversation at #WeAreHurling. Thanks very much for joining us.